and homesteaders. I hope this finds everyone doing okay. Today will be the first day of our chick raising series. We raise Cornish Cross here on the homestead. They're a fast-growing bird. They're really the only kind of meat birds we've tried, but we love them, so we're not going to switch it up anytime soon. We ordered 25, so I'm going to show you our brooder. Now, it's February. It's the beginning of February, so it is still really cold outside. We just got snow, actually. So I'm hoping they made it through that okay on the truck. But, once they get here, they'll be just fine. We have our tub. All this is a plastic tote. Now, we've used this for 2 years now, so it's got a little, there was a hole in it right here. We patched it. So, with the chicks, you want to have some shavings. Some people use straw, some people use hay. We use pine shavings. You don't want to use cedar, because the cedar is bad for respiratory systems, particularly in smaller animals. So if you have hamsters, rabbits, gerbils, any of that, don't use cedar bedding. It messes with their breathing. We use this pine shavings. We do use the fine, and when they get bigger, we'll use the bigger ones, like the rabbits have. And then our feed, we start them off on a 20% chick starter grower. I specifically bought these so that I can keep up with our expenses for the Cornish Cross. That way, at the end of this, we can give you a breakdown on how much they cost us, how much we used bedding, how much we fed them, the whole nine for the whole entire duration that we have them. In general, the Cornish Cross are processed at about 8 or 9 weeks. That's what they're known for. 8 weeks, you're done. They're monsters. But we don't feed the same way that everybody else does. They recommend you feed 12 hours on and 12 hours off. So this is, you give them a big old bucket of food, and they eat all that they can in that 12 hours. Then you take it away, and then you give it back 12 hours later. We don't do that. We feed them just like we do our regular chickens. They get a big, healthy scooping, enough for them to eat, kind of. Honestly, it's not even going to last them throughout the day. They don't need it. It will take them a hair longer to get to the average weight, but it's worth it, okay? So say you can't process them on weeks 8 or 9, okay? You have to postpone it rather than worry about them sitting there, laying there, legs won't work, they're overweight, dying just out of the blue. Ours don't do that. Ours are good for a long, long, long while. We have kept them up to 15 weeks and had 8 or 9 pound birds. Obviously, economically, that's not ideal, but when you don't feed them as much as they can eat, it probably really equals out. But anyway, I'm going to prove my point in this. I will show you the whole way through, probably a weekly update, and then all the way up till processing day. Now, chances are, we usually don't do them all at once, so we'll do maybe 5 to 10 one day, and then about a week or so later, we'll do more. And it's just going to be a continuous thing. But we're going to keep this first batch separate, and we'll give you a breakdown of how much we spend and how much weight we get and all that stuff. My rabbits are mad because I'm not petting them. I really got to clean their coop too. I mean cage. Tomorrow they will be coming to the post office. I will have to leave from work to go to the post office to get them, bring them here, get them set up, and I'll show you that whole process. Anyway, I'll get up with y'all tomorrow. Hey friends, family, and homesteaders. I hope this finds everybody doing well. So I just left work. I have to go get the chicks, and I'll bring them home. And I'll show you how we set them up. And then I gotta rush back to work. Right now, my job's pretty slow because it's winter time and it's during the week. So she let me go early. Thank you, boss lady. Alright, like I said before, I'm trying to make this pretty fast, so I didn't get a chance to film all the cool shots that I wanted to, but here's our chicks. They're in this little box right here. Alright, so I got the brooder set up. They have a food tray. I like this one because it's got all the separate holes. They can't get in, fling it all over the place and make a mess. And then we have this water. Now, as they get bigger, we will give them a bigger water bottle. But for now, that's plenty. Now, the first thing you want to do when you get chicks in is you want to dip their beaks in the water so they can drink. They've just been shipped. They've been through a lot. They're only a day old. So you want to dip their beaks in the water, show them where it's at, and they'll figure the rest out. They'll figure out the heat, the spot, all of that. So, we're going to get started. I got 25 of these. Every so often, they'll send an extra. So we're going to count them as we go. I need scissors. Oh, handy. There's the babies. Okay. So now, I'll check them better when I get home, but you're just going to dip their beak in the water like that. And once you do one, just kind of set them around it because they'll figure it out pretty fast. You see? They're pretty curious critters anyways. Okay, that's 5, 10, 12, 13, 20, 25, and they did send us an extra, which makes 26. Now, as you can see, they'll outgrow this bin pretty fast. Okay, so it's after work. There is a few things that I rushed through, so I'm going to properly explain it a little bit. The first thing that you really want to do when you get your chicks is double check their bottoms. Okay? So you want a nice fluffy butt. You do not want any feces back there. And if you lift the chick a little bit, they'll give you a good view. I know that's really just what you wanted to see, but in farming, you'll see a lot. So you're just gonna make sure they're all bright-eyed. Make sure that their vents are clean. And I do this every time I change the bedding. So just as you're moving them, just peek at their backside. Another thing, especially if you feed pretty heavy or you have them in a tiny space similar to this, every time you change their bedding, which should be pretty frequently because they go to the bathroom non-stop, you guys, but every time you switch them, you are going to check their bottom. You're also going to flip them on their belly and make sure that these little feathers on their belly aren't being rubbed off and wet and nasty. Okay, so you want to keep these in tip-top shape. After all, they're nuggets. You're going to be eating them one day. So, these guys grow really fast. They will outgrow their feathers quickly. Whereas most birds will grow their feathers, feather out, and then they'll get plump. These do the exact opposite. They get plump, then they feather out. Another thing I mentioned, while I do not do the 8 or 12 hours on and 12 hours off, for the first week or two, we do feed as much as they want. After that, we limit it. So they get whatever they get a day, and that's it. As we get to that point, I'll show you what we're feeding and how much we're feeding. Make sure that your water stays clean. They do tend to make a mess of it pretty quick, like. So I'll have to change that out in a minute. You can also, if you have the space, put like like a plate or something to get it up off the shavings. Because if babies in general can make a mess, they're gonna. Chicks are no exception. But another thing that I kind of didn't get to talk about very much, in their water, especially for the first week or so, week, 2 weeks, somewhere in there, you're going to want to put apple cider vinegar. They say it's best to use with the mother, but you use what you got. Little chickies getting a drink. They find it pretty quick. They're fast learners. But for this bottle, there's not even a teaspoon in it. There's just a wee little bit. And so another thing that I forgot to mention, you will notice your chicks, if they are clustered together in a pile, they're too cold. So as you can see, we have raised this bin up a little bit closer to the heat lamp. The heat lamp, make sure that it's secured somewhere, and you want this cage on it. That way, in the event it does fall, the bulb doesn't bust, and it keeps that hot bulb off the ground. But if you'll notice, I'll bring you down here and you can see they're kind of starting to spread out a little bit. Okay, so there's a few that are still clustered, and then there's a few that are spreading out again. There we go. If you put apple cider vinegar in your water, just a little bit, just a itty bitty bit, it will help with the pasty butt that I was talking about, where the back sides get clogged up. Don't put too much, just a little bit, and if you can find it with the mother, get that one. If not, use what you have. Ideally, you will put a thermometer in here. If you don't have a thermometer, just peek in at your chicks every so often, and you'll be able to tell if they're cold or if they're too hot. If they're all way over here, they're too hot. So you're going to lower this or raise the heat lamp, however you have to do it. If they are all cuddled up under the heat, they're too cold, you need to get the heat down towards them, or make the room warmer, or whatever you got to do. Ideally, if this is your first batch, I would definitely get a thermometer. I believe the first week they have to be in the 99-degree range. It's pretty toasty. And then after that, I think it's per week it drops down. I'll leave a little message right here that explains what temperature it's supposed to be at. It's been a little bit since I've used a thermometer, so I don't quite remember. I just go by what the chicks are doing. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking this video. Comment if you got any questions or anything you want to say at all. Also, if you know somebody that would enjoy this video, feel free to share it. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. To the ones that are subscribed, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. This is really fun. Just a funny story real quick. I got to the post office, and usually when I get to the post office and I pick up our chicks, they're driving them crazy. They're chirping, they're chipping, they're chirp, cheep, cheep, cheep. I walked in the office and I didn't hear any cheep, cheep, cheeping. And I'm like, oh no, they've all died. It's been too cold. So I'm like, yeah, I'm here to get my chicks. And the guy was like, oh, it's you. I'm like, yeah, it's me. So he disappears into the back, and a few minutes later he comes and I hear cheep, 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 cheep. I'm like, whew, they're not all dead. That's so good. They all made it. We use Meyer Hatchery. We're not affiliated with them by any means. We've used them for the last 2 years, I believe, and we have had great success with them. They're here quick. We haven't had a dead one, and there's usually an extra one, so that's really nice. We greatly appreciate that. So I definitely recommend them. And don't forget, this is the first episode of the series. This is just setting up the brooder and bringing chicks home. We'll just give you updates for the next couple weeks until we get to Butcher Day.